Hey, Matt.
Yes, Ryan.
I'm sorry.
Cool. Let's start the episode.
And welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the best music podcast out there that is on this side of the Mississippi. It's called Hey, Listen to This. I am the one, the only, Ryan Kearns.
And I am maybe one of like 5 or 10 in the world, Matt Durzik.
And if this is your first time listening into this podcast, first of all, welcome to the show. And second of all, I hope you brought cupcakes. And third of all, what we do here is essentially every week, me and Matt just, take turns picking an album that we're going to dissect from A to Z. It could be as thorough as a dissection as me gushing over the lyrics, opening lyrics of I'm Trying to Break Your Heart by Wilco. Or it could be something as simple as like Mumford and his Sons don't know how to write music.
Yes.
And this week, we are finishing off our two-parter mini saga going into K-pop. So for those of you who did not check out our previous episode, pause the pod right now, go check out that episode, come back. If you're not familiar with the world of K-pop, if you're very familiar, well, you don't need to watch that first. Listen to that first episode. You basically already know more than me and Matt combined.
You could probably watch it or listen to it, and then in the comments let us know how much we missed. There's a lot.
That being said, we brought back our co-host. Hey, everybody!
Hi.
So the co-host that we're bringing back on is Jamie, my wife.
Hi.
She did such an excellent job in the last episode that we decided to just bring her back on to fully dissect the album that we're about to discuss.
Plus, they probably won't know some of this stuff, so they need me for this one.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that being said, Jamie, what album are we talking about this week?
So I gave these guys descriptions of 2 albums in the last episode. They passed up on reviewing Luna's Plus Plus in order to review FX's Pink Tape, released in 2013. It was considered by Billboard to be the most influential K-pop album of the 2010s, which I would definitely agree with, especially since it has, we'll get into it, but it has actually affected how, especially in K-pop, albums are treated and released from up until now. I think now is kind of its peak.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, this is I would say my very first K-pop album that I've listened from, top to bottom. Big shocker. How about with you, Matthew?
Same.
Same?
Big same.
Big same, okay. So, yeah. That being said, when you were talking about this being a very influential K-pop album, I can definitely see that. I mean, we're gonna get into it with all the different kind of tracks here, but there's a lot to go over here in terms of styles.
Yeah. One of the major things that can't really touch on the same way in a podcast that you could with a visual is we talked about in the education episode about visuals being super important in K-pop. I actually sent these guys a video of somebody unboxing their Pink Tape album, and it's because one of the things now in K-pop that we kind of take for granted is that the albums are kind of works of art in themselves. They'll come with merch within. There's different pieces of art. There's different pieces regarding the members. And Pink Tape, not that they didn't have it before, but it was mostly just the clear discs or a cardboard disc holder. Now K-pop has these pieces of art because Pink Tape was made to look like a tape, like a VHS style tape, like a cult film. I'll go into that before we start going into the actual meat of the album. Before they dropped the album, they released an art film as a teaser. Usually there's teasers, little pieces of the songs and stuff like that. They released a Sofia Coppola style art film that had like teased a little bit of the ideas. The whole album idea was inspired by 2 movies, Virgin Suicides by Sofia Coppola and In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai. Both super stylistic films. And then you get to the actual album and it's basically like a cult romance film.
Oh, that's so cool. You know
I know, right?
You know what? Well, I mean, not a one-for-one comparison, but, I mean, I feel kind of dirty bringing this man up again in our podcast, but Kanye West...
It is kind of a... because he had full-blown concepts leading up to it. I'm sure there's other artists that can kind of think of with that, but he's actually probably a good Western example of creating these full, like, moments and concepts around the album. Actually, Beyonce's a great one. I don't know why I'm forgetting her. She made an entire visual album around the whole thing, and her style, think about her Renaissance tour. Her whole look for Renaissance was her and this long blonde hair, these sort of looks. She makes her backup dancers, including, well, no, her daughter gets to not have to be blonde, but all of our backup dancers have to have blonde hair for the tour, so she can have this look and they can have this aesthetic. So like that's kind of the idea, this build up that we have and these just aesthetics you have in order to have this concept for just an album.
And I would say too, on top of that, that the only thing with the Beyonce thing is that her 2 visual albums, Renaissance and before that Lemonade, came after Pink Tape, whereas Kanye with Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, the Runaway movie, that was slightly before this, 5 years. But
wasn't Lemonade in 2013 or is it
2016?
There was, which one was in college? When we were in college?
You're thinking of the
Beyonce,
the double album.
Self-title album.
Yeah. Which that was another one. So that's a good point too.
Yeah.
Of course, last episode I talked about how a lot of the Western culture of the 80s sort of permeates their way into K-pop throughout all history, and of course, the ultimate trailer for an album, Michael Jackson's Thriller. That was basically a 20-minute movie that got turned into a 6-minute single, which turned into the greatest selling album of all time.
Yeah, definitely with that. But yeah, like I mentioned, the visuals of the album, the visuals of the trailers leading up to it were a huge deal. It's literally called Pink Tape because it's a pink VHS tape. They have it ticked off for, I think it's romance and... crap.
Actually, I'm gonna chime in there because there was a little bit of research that I was able to do as well. I know. Look at me. I'm a big boy now, everyone. Anyways, so the genres that they covered in the Pink Tape.
No, I'm not talking about that. It's literally checked off on the album. On the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, she's talking about the cover.
I'll let you go. But I'll check out the cover.
But the cover that I'm referencing, let me do a backup here. The album cover features the 5 members of FX with their group name and the album title in pink with an 8-bit font, making it appear as they are starring in a film titled Pink Tape. Above the members are 5 movie genres: action, romance, science fiction, horror, and cult.
And romance and cult are checked off.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. So, yeah. The only other thing that I will say about the research that I was able to do, I got a random stupid question for you.
Okay.
So, one of the members, the main vocalist of this group her name is Luna.
Yeah.
Is that the same Luna or no?
Luna is a group with 2 O's, and then her name is Luna.
Okay, good. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Cool.
Yeah, the group is, so to clarify, the group is Luna with 2 O's, and the singer is Luna with a U.
Correct.
Cool.
To go with the other members, Luna comes from a Korean classical music background. The group was put together. That's how a lot of these are put together. But they specifically wanted a multicultural group and to design this group from the ground up. Luna was the 3rd member found. I'll go backwards because you'll understand why I wanted to get there. Amber is Taiwanese American and recruited in LA. She became the main rapper. And she's probably the most distinct if you look at the lineup because she has very androgynous style. Everyone else has at least like basic cutesy girl group look. Victoria is the oldest and she's considered the leader. She studied classical dance in Beijing and she was the first foreign leader of an idol group in Korea. Crystal was a Korean American scouted by SM. Originally she was a model and then moved into the singing sect. And then Soli, her original Korean name, Choi Jin-ri, was a South Korea child actress that signed with SM Entertainment in her 4th year of school. And she was the first member to be recruited. Sadly, this was her last album with the group because she left, went on hiatus in 2014 and announced that she left in 2015. Various reasons why, but unfortunately because the amount of hate that she had received because of leaving the group and just being a child actress, she did take her own life in October of 2019.
Oh.
So, do want to just kind of honor that for a second because this album does include her and it is her last album. They did try to move on after this. But she was the first member recruited, so she was kind of foundational, so that's kind of a dig there, and it was even before they got a fandom name and everything for FX.
Wow. Holy crap, man.
Yeah. Fun to go down these rabbit holes. It's fun.
So, yeah.
Yep, won design awards and all that stuff, so made a huge deal in the K-pop sphere.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to get at her?
I think we're ready to get at her.
All right.
So the very first track is called Rum Pum Pum.
Rum Pum Pum Pum.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kick this one off because, like, I am just moving into my attack phase.
There you go.
And so right away, this was my first introduction to FX's Pink Tape because based on like your emphasis on driving the visuals of it, like this was the only like music video that I was able to find off the from the album.
Yeah, I don't think they made any other music videos. They had this was before you would start doing more music videos than just your singles. So there's probably you'd probably come across more performances at music show events, but not as much music video.
Yeah. And like, right away, like what drew me into this song here was that repeated guitar strumming. Like it lays such a nice foundational with the instrumentals that really just kind of guide the song nice and through. Like it's gonna be very hard for me to like talk about like music like this because I'm like, oh, I'm the lyrics guy, and let me talk about this.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
And Matt's looking at me like, yeah, thank God. But no, like, let's be real. The chord strumming does lay such a nice foundational for the song, and like overall, like this song is pretty good. Like, the chorus is mostly okay. Like, I think I expected a little bit more out of a K-pop chorus. And the rap section really goes hard in the paint. Like, I really did dig that section.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this song, too. I think it's a solid opener. It kind of sounded like something that you would hear maybe on, like, the Kill Bill soundtrack.
So, I actually, I don't know if I would have thought Kill Bill, although it kind of could be, especially that intro with the guitar like
yeah.
But I don't know if you guys picked this up, but especially the chords at the end and the beats, it reminded me of that classic Little Drummer Boy because they have the rum pa pum pum. That little chord is the same chord that they use.
Is it really?
Song. It's the same chord.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
this is a Christmas album then?
It's a Christmas album. It's like Die Hard. It's a Christmas movie. Yes. But that's what, like, the first time I heard it, Keep in mind, I obviously knew more than them, so they had singles before this called Hot Summer and Electric Shock. Love them. So when I heard Rum Pum Pum Pum, it was kind of like, I was kind of like most people, and it was kind of a mixed reception. I was like, oh, it's not going as hard as I thought it would. And then especially since I was like, oh, it's kind of derivative of Little Drummer Boy. But it grew on me more I heard it.
Yeah, but otherwise, I thought this was a really interesting mix of dance with girl group. I know last time we talked about like themes and generations, but it definitely felt like there was a synthesis of them here in a sense. It definitely wasn't just one thing because the vocals were very much in the style of like girl group and sort of the la la la, rap-a-pa-pum, but the beat is pretty much dance. Like it sounds like something. It almost sounds similar to the beat to "Blow" by Kesha in a sense, and it's an interesting mix of dance with girl group, and I liked it. It's definitely not my favorite song on the album, but it's a good solid opener.
Yeah.
I like the one of the things because we don't know Korean, so it's not really focusing on the actual words when they're singing. I like the fact that they actually use their voices as percussion, like like a snare would accent and the beat would actually was how they were singing it, which made far more sense for a song called Rum Pum Pum Pum, where it's like you're using your voice as the percussion along with the percussion that's going on in the background. A lot of this album is really focused on a lot of percussion.
Yeah. And one other thing that I'm going to mention about this track here that I really did appreciate, I did dig how in the verses, how like they would have just the main vocalist sing a line, and then like the rest of the girls were coming with the like that was a nice call and response element there. Do we want to talk about the music video or no?
It's cute. They're in a white void.
Oh, okay. Because I actually had a question there. I don't know if you did any research on the music video itself, or if you were able to find out what is that metal flower that they're like all gushing
I'm not
over?
going into that lore. Nope. That's not today's.
You can do that research on your own.
If somebody can tell us what the metal flower is going on in Rum Pum Pum Pum, comment below. Leave us a flower emoji.
Real ones, though.
I will say, ironically enough, because I know you mentioned this is the only video that came from the album.
Yeah.
I did a complete 180 as far as my research for this album. Whereas with the K-pop episode, I watched all the videos that were given to me.
Yeah.
I watched nothing. I literally just listened to the music this time around.
Oh, man. Which I probably better, because like I don't think that the music video like added more to Rum Pum Pum Pum. I think it's just like, oh, this is a nice extra track.
Right.
Yeah.
Except for the metal flower.
Except for the metal flower.
I want to know what the middle flower is.
That's just going to be the entire next episode. Is just going to be discussion of the metal flower.
Yeah. That's going to be our Patreon exclusive.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, that being said, ready to move on to Shadow?
Yeah.
Move on to Shadow.
So, who's going to call dibs on this one?
So I think every single one of us had a song where we couldn't remember the song, and this is going to be mine. This was I equated it to, there's a song that comes after on Fall Out Boy's Under the Cork Tree after Little Less Than 16 Candles, A Little More Touch Me. And I actually wrote down the wrong name of that song, which should let you know how much I remember that song and equivalent to how much I remembered Shadow. We listened to it right before this podcast, and I can't actually remember, except for maybe there was a wind chime at some point.
There was kind of a wind chime in there.
Okay, good.
It's actually more of a, it's a lighter beat, has more of like a Soda Shop vibe.
Yeah, it's cutesy. I think that's what it is. It's so cutesy that it doesn't go together with the rest of this album for me, so my brain's just like, nah.
I think it's a good song. I think Shadow is. I mean, it is pretty much nothing else except for, you got the like I said, the Soda Shop vibes, the harmonies. The only problem I had with this song is that the beat was kind of limp, especially after Rumpa Pum Pum. It just kind of felt like very airy and light, and it's not bad. It's not a bad song. In fact, I'm going to make a spoiler here and say there are no bad songs on this album.
No, I also agree with that. I wrote this down apparently, and because I don't remember the song, I don't know what I mean by it. I have resembles more of Chinese pop rather than K-pop. So I'm gonna have to take my word for it.
Fair enough.
So that being said, like I feel like I remember the song a little bit more now that I'm thinking about it. Like a couple of the elements, like there was one section in the chorus where it almost seems like the vocals are blending in with the instrumentation. Mm-hmm. Like it's almost like they're responding to the little bend there, and I think that's a nice little clever nod there. Mm-hmm. And I like the airy, like, ba, 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 like the call and response, like the kind of tailing off there. Yeah. It's a nice little moment for me.
Still can't remember even after he mentioned that little vocal bit. I do have down that, like, it, and I agree with it, but, like, it's a chill transition. Like, there's always transition songs on an album. Not everyone can be a full-blown banger. We all can't be Hot Fuss or Under the Cork Tree. But apparently not Under the Cork Tree, because I still can't remember that song.
We'll bring you back on for that Fall Out Boy episode to complete the circle there.
There you go.
So that being said, we good with Shadow?
Like, I think we're good with Shadow. It's again, it's a nice song, but kind of,
it's there.
It's there, yeah.
All right, Matthew, you're going to lead off Pretty Girl.
Okay, now we're getting into the heavy stuff. So this is actually one of my 3 favorite songs on the album.
Awesome. Yeah. I actually really like this one too. This would probably be in my top 3 also.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my favorite, but I will say that after the second listen of the album, the hook to this song has been embalmed in my skull.
Dude, yes.
Yeah, it's so good. And the build-up is fantastic. The beat goes hard. One song that made me think of immediately, and again, I am not a K-pop expert by any means, but I did watch a video once. It's a Goofy video where they have the presidents of the United States singing different songs, and one of them was Mania.
Oh, Maniac by Stray Kids.
Oh, Maniac, yes. So that's kind of what this song reminds me of. It's sort
that's kind of, yeah, because it has that, like, noisy sound. It is very of the time.
Plus it's the same syllables, Maniac, Pretty Girl.
Pretty girl. Yeah, actually, no, they use the same beats, yeah. That's very true.
Now, which song came first?
Oh, this one did. Maniac got released in the past couple years.
Cool. Feminism.
Yeah, feminism. So this is the only one I actually looked at the lyrics for because I needed to know something. So, Pretty Girl is basically one of the only English words that they use in this. So I was like, do they use the other, like, the Korean? They do not actually use the Korean word for it, and I think it's because Pretty Girl has harsher tones sounding, and it's a very harsh song. The lyrics actually have a bit of a vibe mixed with, like, Misery Business and You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift.
That kind of makes sense. I mean, I try to steer away from, like, the lyrical dissection because, one, I wanted to challenge myself outside
Good for you.
And 2, like, I just wanted to really just dig into the musical aspects of it. Yeah. But the one thing that kind of came up in my little brief research of, like, this album on the lyrical side, Pretty Girl, like, it's more of a, like, kind of a tear down, like, hey, screw all your pretty girls or something like that. So
it's not necessarily a tear down, it's just that it's kind of a, like, you're gonna peak in high school sort of song. Yeah. And, like, the reason I was just so focused on finding the word pretty girl in the lyrics was I was like, they, in some other songs, they might, even if it's like Maniac, they inserted some other similar words in Korean into the song. But for Pretty Girl, they just use Pretty Girl. And it's probably because I'm going to butcher this, I know it is. But the Korean word for Pretty Girl is Yapyeon Yoja, which does not, it sounds too pretty. It actually sounds too pretty. So they're going to use the English one because when you sing Pretty Girl, of course it's going to sound a little meaner, and you're trying to be mean, like, you're better than being just a pretty girl. Man. Like, basically that's what the whole vibe is, and it sounds like that the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, very hard beat. Also, could you pronounce that one more time?
Yapyeon Yoja?
The only reason I say that because I'm pretty sure that is, because the second you said, I was like, I've heard that before, and I was like, oh, Gangnam Style. It's in there somewhere, I think.
Oh, Oh, okay.
It sounds like it.
Oh, there you go.
Yapanyoja.
Yeah, okay.
I will have
I
to
could
look-
I could be completely wrong
Okay.
about this.
Ryan, you talk about Pretty Girl a little bit more, and I'm gonna look up the Hangul of Gangnam Style.
So, you know what Western group had Pretty Girl reminded me of? I don't know how many of you guys, I know you know this group, pointing to Jamie here, but Matt, do you know the group Sleigh Bells?
Yes.
Hey, that's
I
actually
vaguely know Sleigh Bells. You
Yeah.
introduced me to them, and I was like, "What in the hell is this?"
Yeah. Along with countless amount of like acts when I introduced you to stuff.
This is also true.
Yeah, but that being said, like wrapping up my point here real quick, like the guitars and the overall beat of this track here really remind me of Sleigh Bells in terms of like what they were doing in their album Reign of Terror. And the only other thing that I'm gonna just say about Pretty Girl itself, like I really love this snarky rap section in here. It's very like it kind of reminds me of like, again, trying to take it from my own musical knowledge database, but it kind of reminds me of like Cardi B or like Megan Thee Stallion, like just a very sassy kind of like rap.
Yeah.
And then the chorus is so freaking huge. I love that chorus, man.
I do too, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is one of my favorite 3 songs on the album for a reason. And at the end of this, it still may be number 1. We'll see.
Not in my top 3.
not my number one, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to Gangnam Style, yes, in some of the verses he says the word girl a lot, which is yocha. And a couple of the other words, which I will not pronounce because now looking at the romanized version of it, it's about 20 letters long, so no. But yes, there are several combined words in here that will sound like yep and yocha.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yoja is in there a lot.
Educated
He
guess.
says a girl a lot. I just looked at the English lyrics. Oh, girl is in there a lot. He talks about a girl a lot.
They need to release the English version just for the...
No, looking at these lyrics, it's not going to sound as good.
That's why I want it released.
Yep. Uncle is Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Uncle is Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Uncle is Gangnam Style. It's sexy lady.
All right.
Anyway,
So,
sick kick. We're on kick.
ready to move on to Kick?
Let's move on to Kick.
All right, so I'm gonna kick this off here.
Hey.
Hey.
So I absolutely love this song. It is so freaking amazing. It's an interesting thing whenever I was doing the research for it, because apparently, like before this album here, like this kind of like weird kind of like glitchy stuff is what FX was apparently known for.
Yeah, electropop is their big thing.
And like some fans were like, at least the one review I was looking at with this album here, they looked at Kick and being like, oh, FX is going back to their older stuff. I'm like, if this is their older stuff, sign me the hell up,
I
man.
think you'd like Pinocchio, which is their first album.
But no, like the way that like this whole song just drives that like rhythm going forward, and like it's such just a great song. Like yeah. So what are you guys thinking about Kick here?
It's another one that I had a harder time remembering. Not as bad as Shadow, but I like it. It's also another like big percussive one. It reminded me of the vibes that we get from like Hollaback Girl, especially with like the marching band lyrical chanting stuff like that, and using a lot of like marching band and schoolyard sort of. I feel like there's this genre of song that is just schoolyard, which Hollaback Girl is probably my best example of. And that just like I put that and another later song in there. So that's where my brain is. Like it's good, not in my top 3, but yeah, good.
Gonna cut you off there. Sorry. One thing that I'm gonna add to what you were saying earlier when we were talking about like rumpa pum pum, like this definitely does play off that percussive element there. All right, Matthew, I'm sorry I was rude.
That's okay. Honestly, I was not a huge fan of this song. Like, it's fine, but it's something about the atonalness of it kind of just turned me off a little bit.
Oh, see, I love the atonal stuff.
I just can't, especially coming off of Pretty Girl, and even to an extent Shadow and Rumpa-Pum-Pum.
Yeah.
Like, to have none of that in here, it did kind of turn me off. But I don't hate this song. I wrote in my notes it sort of sounded like a polished version of Nicki Minaj's Pound the Alarm. Like, it's definitely got that very, like...
There's actually another one that I talk about later that I feel like it references Nicki Minaj, which, considering they're both really coming up around this time, I think it was just the sound of the time, because she became big in, like, 2012, so that would make sense that, like, if they're making an album for 2013, that there would be some Nicki Minaj influences in there.
Yeah, so when I say polished version of Pound the Alarm, like, Pound the Alarm had, like, that really bizarre screeching synth, that whoop, 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 whoop,
It
or
was
something
just
like
very
that.
well produced.
Yeah, like, this is very well produced in that regard.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't hate it, but it's definitely not one of my favorites on the album.
That's fair.
Ironically enough, it's in my top 3.
Is it your top...
I think it might be 3rd, if I can, tier things correctly.
I don't tier this. Cool. Next. Signal. This is my number 1. I don't usually rank anything, but this was my favorite song, especially going back to it. It has that soul disco sort of feel, and I wrote, and now that I'm putting it down, I think I looked at the lyrics a little bit on this one too, because I wanted to see some of the English in this one and would see what it went to. But it reminded me of the kind of song that you put on in the car and you're just driving down an open road after a breakup and you're feeling good about it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely know where you're going through that. Ryan's just like, is that foreshadowing?
No, you're just moving your like shoulders while you're holding the steering wheel. It's real sunny and stuff like that. Windows down, letting your hair go, just feeling yourself sort of feel. But you're saying, giving the big old middle finger to the person that you just left behind.
Just the big ol' escape.
Yeah.
Big ol' escape.
Yeah, I agree. It's not my number 1 song, but I do like it a lot. I do like the disco beat to start. Reminded me a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire, actually, that opening. But you have that. You have the schoolgirl harmonies in there. I don't know if anybody else picked this up, but this is actually, we were talking about how, songs sound like Nicki Minaj or this, or, songs that came after it. Like we talked about how Maniac came after Pretty Girl. The hook to this song sounds very similar to Cake by the Ocean.
So I didn't get that because it actually reminded me more so of a song that they do later that I heard before this. The chorus of this reminds me of Four Walls by FX. And that's what was in my head when we were going through that. Mm-hmm. So I can hear it, it's just not where my brain went.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's where my brain went, because I was like, this sounds a lot like Cake by the Ocean. I wonder if there's a lawsuit.
Overall, like, my thoughts on the song, it's a decent enough song. I might have to spin it again just to get it through my brain. It might have been one that kind of fell through the cracks, because my notes here say, like, I feel like this is more of a filler song, but I think with my most recent spin of the album, not when we spun it, like when you were earlier here, well, when we were here earlier, Matt, wow, that was very poor wording. Anyways, I digress. But, like, when I did my latest headphone spinning, like, I really did appreciate it. It's a decent enough song, so.
I'll give you another little bit to appreciate it. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the fact that, especially in Korean music, but a lot of Asian music is set on, like, pentatonic scales. Just using 5 notes. This song in particular, a lot of, like, if K-pop goes back to its roots a little bit, you'll hear it a little bit more. This actually was set a little bit more in that, but I also think it's because disco has a more flat version of it as a bass. They use a little less, but that's because they're based in jazz, so you have a jazz set, you need to use certain chords to be able to improvise on top of it, so you need to have just a set number of notes to base it on. So that's why disco also has that, because disco has roots in Motown, which had roots in jazz. But because a lot of Korean, like, traditional music has that pentatonics, that's why it blends so well together, is because then it emphasizes that 5-note scale sort of bit.
Oh. Nice.
So noticed that a little bit on watching it. Was just like, okay, that's why I like this so much.
All right, cool. Ready to move on to Step?
Step.
Let's move on to Step. And this is another one of my top 3 songs on the album. This song is awesome. It's just a really... I'll just read off the notes I have here. It has very 2000s kid show vibes.
Yeah.
And that is not a disparaging comment. That's a compliment. Because this sounds like something you would hear like in the middle of like on a commercial break on Disney.
2000s kid shows really had like amazing music. Like think about the fact that we still can probably recite the lyrics to Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom's intros.
Oh yeah.
Like they had some good music, man. Shiny Teeth and Me, that will always be my jam.
Oh, that song slaps so hard.
So hard. But yeah, this sounds like something you would hear in the commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And honestly, I know I said 2000s, but it also reminded me of a theme song from the 90s, which you two may not remember at all. It was a game show on Nickelodeon called Wild and Crazy Kids. And this song sounds like a slowed down version of that, in a sense.
Yes, I haven't thought about that show in a long time. You just I gotta go hide and unlock that part of my brain a little bit more.
All right. So, anyways, well,
Do you have any idea what I'm talking about, Ryan?
No.
Okay.
I grew up as a Cartoon Network kid, so
Okay.
one of those. Yeah. It's okay.
I had my stages. I was mostly Nickelodeon, a little bit of PBS, a little bit of Cartoon Network, later on Disney Channel, and then I hit puberty.
I was mostly a Nickelodeon PBS kid with the dabbling and the other ones.
Which kind of kid were you? Leave a comment below in the YouTube video.
Or with your 5-star review.
Right.
There you go. So, yeah, jumping in here, I absolutely agree with you, man. Like, Step is, I would say it is my favorite song off the album as well. Like, the way that it just jumps in with that nice percussive rhythm that we've discussed about with other songs off the album, and the way that it builds with such intensity and how like the vocals play off the instrumentals is so freaking good.
Yeah, I know we talked about Sleigh Bells, but I thought like this and Kick were the songs that when I heard them, I was like, it reminds me of why I was also thinking of Sleigh Bells, but also Straight Laid Manifesto. They are groups where you hear the album and you can tell that they would be great live.
Yeah.
Like these are the songs where you kind of want to see what they can do with this live, because they are just a full, like, not orchestra, but you can just tell in the sound that this needs to be in an arena of some sort.
Another part in this song that I'm going to note is I love how like the vocals just bounce up and down, like do 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 do. Like again, I'm not doing this justice. One, I'm just a 30-something white male in America, but two, like if you are curious to hear what that sounds like, pause the pod, go listen to this song specifically right now.
Maybe just wait till after the pod's done.
No, pause it, go back. But it is such a great song. I absolutely love it. So, like, it is number one on my top favorite song off the album. Kick is 3. I'm curious, everyone's probably, like, trying to figure out what number 2 is going to be.
We'll see.
I have an idea.
You have an idea?
Yeah, we're gonna see.
Okay, cool.
Alright. Goodbye, Summer.
Goodbye, Summer. Ryan, I believe this is... Or you can go ahead and do it.
Well, I'm going to
yeah.
only start by introducing the fact that this was actually written by Amber originally in English for herself to use, and then they translated part of it into Korean, and then made it... so this is the only track on the album that's not the full group. It is Amber, Luna, Crystal, and then a member of XOK, Dio. Mm-hmm. So it is a little bit different in that concept of the rest of them.
You know what I got the vibes off of with the intro to the song? And it sounds very stupid for me to say, but like, at the very beginning, it kind of reminded me of like Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus. Like, at least not like the big chorus, but like the intro, like, verse.
Sure.
Yeah. It's the way my brain went off.
Yeah.
Don't judge me.
That's okay. My brain, and this is going to be very specific. This reminded me of a very 2000s ballad But I'm talking about like literally a very 2000 ballad that was written by Natasha Bedingfield for S Club 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that. That's kind of the vibe I got too. I put in like late 90s pop vibes. Like this is definitely one of those songs, almost like you said, like a S Club 7 or almost maybe like something by Britney Spears. It's very like slower and more sort of that summer romance kind of thing. Also like I wouldn't say Summer Girls by LFO, but definitely in that sort of breezy acoustic guitar based.
Some of those like minor girl groups like Play and I'm not thinking of some of the others, but Play is definitely a big one.
Yeah. But yeah, I like this song. Definitely a left field type of song.
Yes.
Especially after all the full force dance of the last 4 songs combined. For it to go into this is very. It does feel like almost like a trip back in time.
Yes, because everything else is very of the might be about 5 years behind where we were for some of the music, but it's still very of the time. This is very this went back at least 10 years. I'm gonna guess it is primarily because this would have been what Amber grew up listening to, so she brought in those influences and wanted something a little bit slower, especially as the rapper in the group. It gave her the opportunity to not be forced to rap the whole song.
Right.
So there is a rap portion in the song, but it's a little bit prettier than what the group is used to putting out.
Man. Yeah, overall, decent song for me. I really like, so with kick and step, I really sunk my teeth into, hey, this is very, kind of grinding on the industrial, percussive side. Instrumentals are playing off of the vocals pretty nicely, but in this song here, it's mainly just about the vocals and the way that they pop off in the chorus. It's so freaking nice. Again, if this song was not called Goodbye Summer, you still would have gotten summer vibes off of it no matter what.
Absolutely.
This is essentially just drinking a Corona on the beach kind of vibe.
Respect. I don't think more than that.
I don't think this song's old enough for Corona.
Oh my goodness.
No, this song is definitely for an 18-year-old who's sneaking a seltzer out of her mom's basement. Tell me I'm wrong.
I can't do that.
All right. So we're ready to move on to Airplane?
Airplane.
So overall, at least starting out, my vibe off of this track here was this was kind of kind of like anime music that you would hear from Kingdom Hearts, but it would be kind of stuff that you would hear in a club.
I put down very Disney pop star, but a good way out of the last ballad.
Man.
This was actually the one that I thought sounded like Starships by Nicki Minaj. Because as that build up, especially to the beat drop and the DJ style scramble at a certain point.
I didn't like that.
I know. I didn't really like that either, but it was the very anime section. But more I listened to it, I had less associations with it. But I think it was mostly the build up where we would have come out of the Starships main chorus.
So what didn't you like, Ryan? The part
scramble.
Oh, the build up, and then you would hear Airplane.
Yeah.
So funny enough, I also had that same thought, but I think too, this song would have been because I don't think it's a terrible song. I thought the vocals and the melody were very good. I think this song would have been probably a top tier song on the album if they had changed the juxtaposition of some of the elements.
Yeah, it was a little bit more experimental than some of the other songs on the album.
Right, which granted, the whole airplane, love, that part didn't bother me so much, but it felt like it was in the wrong place. I think the part that comes right after it, sort of the main, chorus part, if they had switched those two parts, this song would have been so much better. But using it as an anti-drop, it just, I don't know, it just felt clunky to me.
Yeah, this was before anti-drops were a huge deal. It's huge now. So the fact that they sort of had an anti-drop here was probably more experimental for the time than we would see it now.
Right. And I think also too the again, for as straightforward as a lot of the dance numbers on this album are, to sort of have that sort of reverse beat that they were going for on that part was also kind of off-putting.
Yeah.
Because when you're dancing, you're just, especially if you are of a certain mindset where it's just like, the beat has to be like this, for it to like reverse in a sense, it's just like, ugh! Like,
It was a bit much.
Yeah.
Alright, ready to move on to,
Toy. The song that Ryan's had to have repeated constantly.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
You still don't remember, do you?
It still escapes me, which is so incredibly sad, because in my notes here, I have, this song is so good that it just left my system.
So this one has a lot of dubstep with, it has a dubstep break with strings, it has electro percussion, it's very early 2000s anime intro-outro music.
Yeah.
Which is weird because like that does make a little sense, but in my notes I have World Beat Vibe / Shakira question mark.
Yeah, no, I can feel that. I have Back to the Schoolyard feel with the vibes, and then there's strings in there. So that probably is where you get.
Yeah, at first I thought almost like it was like something from like Slumdog Millionaire, but I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. And then I thought about it more. It's like, no, this sounds more like Shakira. This sounds like it would be like part of like the 2010 World Cup soundtrack.
No, okay, that makes more sense.
But that being said, I like this song a lot, except for that dubstep part.
The dubstep part is just so unnecessary.
It's not just unnecessary. It's so like, again, the reverse beats. It throws everything off. It's clunky, and again, if you take that part out, this song is just, again, another fantastic, straightforward dance pop song. But they threw that in there. It's just like, because it doesn't feel like it's on the beat even.
I have a theory.
What's your theory?
A music theory.
Maybe the reason why I can't remember the song is because of that dubstep part. Maybe like my brain just scrambled that up and just be like, nope, this song doesn't exist.
Ugh.
Nah, I don't know how that would work, but go on with your bad self.
It's a theory, man. So...
yeah, I also, for some reason, I wrote down this part at the end of Amber's break. She calls instead of saying, calls out the DJ, she calls out Collector. And the line she specifically says is, "What do you want this time, Mr. Collector?" And that felt dirty every time I listened to it.
Like, that meant something.
Yeah.
We don't know what it means, but it means something.
No, and keep in mind, they were all legally adults, but some of them were teenagers still. And it still feels super weird that they said that, and how she said it.
Yeah. Ready to move on?
Yeah, I need to move on after that one.
Alright, so we're going to move on to No More.
So I'm going to pose a question to you guys. This song was originally made for somebody else. That they had originally written the song for themselves, made a track for it, and didn't actually release it under themselves. Do you know what pop artist this was originally made for?
CeeLo Green?
Yes, definitely CeeLo Green.
Who?
There's a reason why I say that, so.
Meghan Trainor?
No. I'm going to at least let you know, the original title of this song was called Boyfriend Material. And I feel like, considering the stuff this artist has been through recently, that seems to make a lot of sense.
Taylor Swift?
No. Oh, good guess, though.
I have no more guesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
The original artist for this was Ariana Grande.
Oh.
Alright.
There's a lot of doo-woppy Hanson vibes.
In 2013?
Yeah.
Her career is that old?
Yeah.
Jeez.
She's as old as we are, guys.
I'm so old and in the way.
I would not have guessed that. That's...
No. So...
She would have at least been doing her career with, like, Sam and Cat at that point, instead of Victorious.
So, yeah. The reason why I mentioned the CeeLo Green part is, at the very beginning of the track there, I got, Forget You kind of vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the reason I said Meghan Trainor was the exact same thing. I kind of got,
Yeah, I had doo-wop and Hanson, so that is very Meghan Trainor.
Did you say Hanson?
Yeah, Little Hanson. There's a bit that reminds me of Hanson at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
It's the chords, I think.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But honestly, if this song's in my top 3.
That makes sense.
Because I'm just a sucker for that. See, this song to me is what Shadow should have been. Like it feels like a soda shop type of song, but it has a fuller sound to it. It's not light and airy. It's very, very danceable. The harmonies are great. It's got a key change in there, which I think is the first time that happens on this album. And it just feels like such a great, like, old school, like, pop tune that I just kind of, like, fell sucker to it right away. So, yeah, definitely top 3 for me in that regard.
I really, really like this song as well. It's not number 2. That song is coming up relatively shortly. Granted, we only have 2 more songs after this one here.
True.
But, like, I really love, like you said, how the group actually leans into that kind of, like, Motown influence. Like, and especially with that chorus with the hand claps, it's such a nice touch. I really do like it. Not much else to add. Like, everyone's done a really good job, like, explaining, like, what the song has to offer. So, yeah, I got nothing else, guys.
Yeah. The rest of my notes say this would be the song that I would show to non-K-pop listeners like my parents. And then this is not going to mean anything to anyone in this room, but maybe a listener or two. This is what people, including myself, I loved about early Mamamoo, because they did this sort of stuff with the retro vibes and stuff like that and focus on vocals. Cool.
Nice.
Snapshot!
Going on to Snapshot. And is it my turn to kick it off?
Yeah, is this your number 2?
Is it my number 2? Did you?
No, I was actually gonna say no more, but then after you said no, I'm like, oh, mother.
Mother! So the way that this track starts out, I really do appreciate that little, like, kind of like fun intro that they have.
Mesdames et messieurs.
And how it just basically kind of starts out with, like, this kind of, like, jazzy kind of Ritz kind of thing. Like, you can almost visualize, like, what is exactly happening. Like, you see the curtains open, then you see the group, like, just basically kick this off in, like, very, like, kind of sassy kind of feel. I really, really dig that, man.
Yeah, it almost reminds you of, like, it's almost like a school assembly, almost feels like.
I put down vaudeville. And adjacent to that, like, Moulin Rouge would probably be a good thing. It's like introducing the main event, but the fact that it's literally the second to last song is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a nice twist on that. Instead of introducing the whole album with this, they're just ending the album. They're like, nah, we're just gonna end after this.
You know what? Kind of like another element that I'm going to talk about is, like, I really love how, like, with this song here, like, they take the old school influences that were really explored in No More. Then really just add in the modern day stuff, and it's an excellent fusion.
Yeah, they're really good about taking a retro musical style and adding electro pop to it. Like, they're good at finding 2 things that shouldn't go together and, like, adding them on top of each other.
Yeah, I did like the jazz influences too here, or at least the jazzy, like, vibes to it, because again, like Ryan said, you could sort of envision what's where it's taking place and what they're doing. Honestly, though, I wasn't, like, super impressed by this song because it felt like the execution, or at least the content of the song after you get to the, jazzy tinges of it, felt kind of ordinary to me. Like, it's again, not a bad song, but just kind of felt like it's there. There's no, like, big old, like, chorus on it, to a sense. It just sort of, it almost feels like a poppier version of an Amy Winehouse song in a sense. Maybe with, like, the jazz influences.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have to say about that. It's fine.
I did appreciate the chorus. Again, like, to add to your point, like, it's not really a big chorus, but it's a fun chorus in my opinion.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ready to get to the ending page?
Let's get to the ending page.
All I have is that it's acoustic, winding down, and early 2000s stripped down pop vibes. It's cute. I don't think I had a much emotional attachment to this.
Yeah.
I didn't either. I thought it was. I thought the singing was very good. The production was very good as well. I also had late stage girl group sound on there. Like, this is something that you would hear in, like, the mid 2000s, in a sense. And granted, girl groups weren't really much of a thing at that point, because things were transitioning out of, like, the boy band sound. Like, all the boy bands and the girl groups were breaking up, instead of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, you had Justin Timberlake, and that's it. Instead of Destiny's Child, you had Beyonce, and really it was sort of the time where pop was definitely like separating again, where you had the hard stuff of like Green Day and Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance. Hip hop was going a little dirtier with like Lil Jon and the crunk sound.
Yeah.
But that's another discussion for another time. Ending Page again just sounds like a very like early 2000s acoustic song, and again I liked it a little bit more. I would probably put it towards like the top half of the middle of the album. But it's a nice solid way to end the album.
It's interesting that you guys keep saying like this is an acoustic song, because like this song has like one of my true nitpicks on the production end.
Really?
Like the guitars that I was able to hear in the background, this probably is going to add to my point here. Like at the beginning, like I actually like there are electric guitars in there, but they're very faint.
It's it's acoustic compared to the rest of the album, I think, is what I'm saying. And then I think because this is more made for a CD rather than a streaming audience, because I think we have to realize now, especially, we're thinking of things in a streaming audience. If I'm thinking about, I usually listen to CDs in the car, and then immediately after like track 12 of 12, it starts from the beginning. I'm thinking that this is a great intro back into Rum Pum Pum Pum. So you have to think, once you're at the end of this song, it goes back to the beginning.
Oh.
So this song would actually be fantastic lead in to Rum Pum Pum Pum, because it's not a heavy song to start with. So this is a great like middle ground after Snapshot right into Rum Pum Pum Pum. So it's almost its own segue song.
Yeah.
And also a good finale song.
Yeah.
I would not have thought of that.
Yeah. Excellent point. I'm going to circle back to a couple other random thoughts that I have about this song, and then we can give our ending thoughts about the song, the album as a whole. But like what I was saying with the guitars, like I wanted a little bit more crunch behind them. Like if you're gonna have guitars like that are gonna be sound like that, kind of just give me a little bit more. Don't kind of tease me with that. So yeah, overall, it kind of like when I was just this song kind of reminds me of like just a credits roll kind of scene, like a video game, an anime, like. Not much to it. It's nice as it is. It's a decent enough ending track. Give me a little bit more of the guitars, and I'll be a little bit more of a happier boy. So, do we have any more thoughts about Ending Page before we close out the album?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. So that being said, we did it, guys.
We did it!
We did it.
We explored what is the pink tape.
The pink tape!
So that being said, I'm gonna go first in terms of like, ratings. And next album, well, we'll do ratings and next album recommendations. So overall, like this was an excellent introduction to K-pop to me. Does explore like the elements and different styles of K-pop. Like you have like the percussive like slap yourself against the wall songs like Kick, Step, and even like songs that confuse like old school and new school like Snapshot, and like songs that go into that old school element like No More, and like have like fun songs like Shadow and Rupa Pom Pom. So like it was a really good introduction to K-pop for me. Again, give me a little bit more guitar crunch and Ending Page, and let me remember Toy for the life of me. And this album goes up a little bit more, but overall, I'm going to give this album a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay. All right. For me, I will echo that it is a great introduction to K-pop for me. And it really reminded me on this whole album how, when you take away the K from the pop, it's still pop music. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, pop music has a beat. It's meant to, at least get your feet tapping, your head nodding, and if you're lucky, your ass shaking. So
one can hope.
Yeah. And so this album does a really good job of that in a lot of ways. It's a smart album. Taken from influences like, the Soda Shops and the early 2000s or late 90s. And for it to be as solid as it is, there's not a bad song on this album. And it's just, it very much reminded me of listening to like, sort of like a modern, now that's what I call music album, where it's just like unabashed pop for 40 minutes. That being said, if there was one nitpick I would have with this album is that it's kind of inconsistent in a certain way, where like, especially with songs like Goodbye Summer, or even to a sense Airplane or Toy, you know, songs, there's improvements to be made in certain places, but ultimately I agree. I think this is a solid album, and I tried to think of like the one other pop album that we did, which was Billie Eilish's When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And I asked myself, would I rather listen to this album over that? And the answer ultimately, I think, is yes. So I, too, actually, I'm not going to give it a full-on 8. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Okay.
I've already told these guys I don't rate things, so I will not be rating this. I will give my thoughts, and then I will actually be the first to do recommendations afterward. I don't even rate things on Letterboxd. It's a like or it's not. There are no numbers, because I feel like, as part of my final thoughts, like the songs are great. I agree with Matt. There's no bad songs on this. There will be some I re-listen to. Some will still. Like, I may go back to Signal, and I might not love it as much as I did recently. And then there's some times where it'll be better for me. I think that's why I don't rate things, because at this moment in time, I might think of a number. It is not that same number. I've listened to this album several times, and each time I would have given it a different number. That's with most media for me. Well, I don't rate things. But yeah, some of these songs I'll re-listen to. Equal number I probably won't. I still have a hard time remembering Shadow, so doesn't matter. But yeah, this is not my introduction to K-pop, but for FX, this was the material I was least familiar with, and I still enjoyed it. I still will, and that'll be first thing on my recommendations. As much as I think the Pink Tape is a masterpiece of actual like album construction, as far as putting it together and the actual visual component, I would still first recommend listening to Hot Summer, Electric Shock, and Four Walls from them. They are like, I have actually had Four Walls stuck in my head while listening and talking about these songs, because it is just a better song. And that sounds mean. It's just better. Yeah. So some songs specifically, because I tried to do a little bit of stuff that these guys definitely won't recommend. I did individual songs. I don't have albums to recommend. So if you liked the Goodbye Summer vibes, First Love by Utada Hikaru, along with, she has another song I'd recommend, Easy Breezy, which is an English song that has the electro pop and mild R&B that you hear throughout this album. If you like Snapshot, the vaudeville song at the end, Mamamoo has a song called Piano Man. It has references to their debut album, Mr. Ambiguous. Very, very old school. If you like some of the faster tracks like Step and Kick, This Hell by Rina Sawayama is a great one, along with Girls' Generation's Run Devil Run. I would also, along with the a little bit more electric pop sort of bits, Girls' Generation's Mr. Taxi, their Japanese version that crossed over. Some more of the percussive stuff. I've got Red Velvet's Happiness, and Luna's So What and Why Not, more of the femme percussive rapping. And if you want some of that like early 2000s feel, Shiny's Ring Ding Dong and Lucifer, great with that. If you want the retro vibes, Miss A, they have two songs, Goodbye Baby and Bad Girl, Good Girl. And if you want something American, I literally only have one American thing on here. There is a group called Freeze Pop. Most of their stuff from the 2000s is great, but specifically the album Fancy Ultra Fresh. There is a song called Sprite, if you look up Freeze Pop, that It's very electro poppy, and there was I can't remember what song. I'm going to probably say "Toy" was the song that specifically I was like, oh, this is like Freeze Pop. What does that make the bowling ball bounce? And so then come put a little freeze pop down below. I don't know if there's an emoji for that. Put something that relates to a freeze pop in your 5-star review or at the comments if you have any clue what I'm talking about. And I think that's all my little recommendations there.
All right. So before me and Matt utter another word and try to recommend where to go from here, because when we started out this episode and we started out this journey, we basically knew nothing about K-pop. So for those of you who are listening at this point, 1, thank you. 2, sincerely just rewind this bit and just start writing down the recommendations that Jamie just listed off if you really want to explore K-pop a little bit further, because I can guarantee you that me and Matt are just going to absolutely not give as much justice to this genres that Jamie just did right now.
You're still going to go down a rabbit hole. A lot, only about half of that was K-pop artists. I had a couple J-pop. Rina Sawayama's kind of in between. She's like a LGBT goddess, and Freeze Pop is from, I don't know, Minnesota, I think. They're the only album that I recommended. That Fancy Ultra Fresh is the only album on there. Everything else is an individual song.
So the album recommendation that I'm going to throw out there, I alluded to this group a little bit earlier, with some of the more percussive elements and the more guitar-based stuff, but Sleigh Bells, the album Reign of Terror by them, it's an excellent example of some of the elements that FX takes from, and really, I think it was actually released around the same time if I'm not mistaken, but I digress. They're basically they're cousin albums in my opinion. There's some elements that you can really see in the Pink Tape. So that's officially my recommendation.
Okay, so my official recommendation is going to be way off the beaten path, even though it is a very mainstream American album.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest with you, I can't really think of any major releases of the last 20 some years that fall into the category of, oh, this sounds like that, compared to, because I really, even in American pop, Western pop, this is the first full album I can recall listening to that just is front to back that stuff. So that being said, I'm just going to recommend a pop album that very much involves the same vibes of, a group of singers who, are very much part of its own thing. And I'm not even going to build it up. It's Millennium by the Backstreet Boys. And it very much, especially if you like songs like Ending Page or Goodbye Summer, or even just the upbeat dance of it. Millennium have stuff like that, particularly Larger Than Life or I Want It That Way. Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely While is one of my favorite songs. The album is a little darker. The One is a great song off there. It also features, and I'll throw this out there, the only song to ever be co-written by Mutt Lange and Max Martin.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if you want the same feeling of unabashed pop and just hearing something that was spawned from the sort of corporate machine that creates pop music for the masses, Millennium by Backstreet Boys is my official recommendation.
Heck yeah.
Wonderful.
So we did it.
We did it.
We did it!
We explored K-pop. Me and Matt are now masters now.
Absolutely. Go to a K-pop event and see what happens.
Let's go to the demilitarized zone. We have no fear anymore.
So,
edit that out, Matt. Edit that out!
Before we go on to whatever Matt has cooked up for the show next, want to take the opportunity just to say thank you to Jamie.
Absolutely.
You've done an excellent job over these past 2 episodes. I appreciate all the research that you've done, how much you've had to put up with me butchering pronunciations.
You want to try that name again?
Nope. I've learned. And just thank you for coming on our show and just saying, hey, this is music that I really like. I want to share it with you guys. So thank you.
Thank you for letting me force you to listen to things that I like to listen to. I'm glad you at least enjoyed some of what you listened to. I will probably play Mr. Simple in the background when I'm annoyed now.
Or just make, constantly just keep playing Toy in the background for me to constantly keep forgetting.
Is this a different song every time? No.
So, yeah. Matthew.
Yes.
So, for the next 2 episodes, you get to decide what we're going to discuss. So,
okay.
What do you have cooked up, at least for part 1 here?
Well, for part 1, so a little bit of backstory.
Okay.
When Ryan decided to go down this K-pop trail and invite Jamie on, I informed my current girlfriend, Rachel, that would be the case, and she jokingly said, oh, she gets to get episode, but I don't, and she was just being a case. I was like, you can come on if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
And so, for the next episode, she will, and the album that we are going to discuss is a complete shift from what we just talked about, by the late country artist, late because he died this year, Toby Keith, called Bullets in the Gun. That'll be our next album.
Oh. Yeah, I'll have to... I'll listen to the album, but I'm curious to see if it has any of the hits that I'm familiar with.
It probably doesn't. It is it is latter era Toby Keith.
So it's literally what we just did to you guys. All the hits that FX had. No, you're not going to listen to any of them.
No. Trust me. For those of you who are following along as far as the pattern of this of the albums we're listening to, don't. This is not a pattern.
There's no pattern.
This is a complete. This is honestly closer to the last album that we reviewed for the K-pop episode, which is the band, than anything else. And even that is probably an insult to the band.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Next time.
Cool. So, that being said, do we have anything else to add to this episode before I send us out?
No.
Buckle up, and the man who made lobotomies a thing has a Nobel Peace Prize.
And that being said, if you reached this part of the episode, 1, thank you. But 2, if you liked what you heard and you want to help support me and Matt and give some love to Jamie over these past couple episodes, the best way that you could do that is go on to your podcasting platform of choice. Give us the highest rating as possible that you can. If you're listening to this on this thing called the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and
join me in the comments. Leave an emoji.
Leave a flower emoji.
And if you want to be kept up to speed about what's going on, any new episodes that we're dropping, follow us on all social media platforms. The tagline is TT Hey Listen. The only ones that we don't have are Snapchat and TikTok, which...
Give it some time.
I'm so old and in the way. But that being said, also, if you want to give us an episode recommendation, or if you want to join in and guest host an episode, 1, contact me and Matt directly, or 2, throw us an email at ttheylisten@gmail.com. But for the last time in this episode, I am Ryan Kearns.
I am Matt Durzik.
I'm Jamie.
And...
Make it stop making noises!